up, I always knew you should only have one relationship at a time. But it didn't always work like that for me. I mean, it did it in the first instance because I thought I was going to be with my drums all my life. You know, you do when you're in love with someone or something. In my case, you think that that's it. You know, you think that's going to be it for your life, but it doesn't always work like that. You know, love doesn't work like that. You know, I brought an American flag home one day just because I wanted an American flag, because I've always liked America, and I just happened to bring this flag home and I got it out of the bag and opened it up, and that was it. You know, there was some sort of thing that happened there, and I'm not sure what it was. I have no idea, but I can only describe it as love. You know, and it hit me like a brick because I wasn't expecting that at all. It just came out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere. And of course, my drums, I didn't feel were very pleased with this. I thought that they were angry with me. You know, there was sort of a really weird air about them. And again, I can't really explain that, other than that I think that they must have been jealous towards the flags, you know, and it didn't work out. I mean, I couldn't ignore the love I had for my flags because it became stronger than that I had previously with my drums. But it didn't work that same way when I found Lady Liberty, because again, that happened out of nowhere, bang, like a brick. You know, again, I didn't expect it, but this time it was different because I felt that there was already a relationship between the flags and Lady Liberty, already an ongoing friendship, that they'd had a connection, both being US symbols for a long time. So I didn't feel that sort of bad feeling that I had before. You know, the relationships progressed and changed over the time. I mean, I put my flags away for a while, but they didn't stay away. But they've come back into my life, but they're not the same kind of love, if I can explain it.
That was Amanda Liberty, who is an absolutely delightful person I met online while researching people who are in love with objects. This orientation to love objects is known by terms like objectophilia, animism, or more correctly, Objectum Sexuality. If you go to the website Objectum-sexuality.org, you'll find an explanation of what OS is. The page you're looking for is What is OS? And here's a short extract. We love objects on a very significant level, and many of us in an intimate way. This feeling is innate. Objectum-sexual love comes for most in a similar awakening as other sexualities at the start of puberty. This is often followed by an acute awareness that we do not relate to peers due to the source of projected feelings. Often, objectum-sexual people feel outcast or pressured by mainstream sexuality, with a helpless feeling that we cannot change what comes so naturally to us. Because of the huge amount of misunderstanding, misrepresentation, ridicule, threats, and abuse OS people get from the media and the general public, I sent my questions to Amanda, and she prepared answers to some in advance. So, as the interview goes along, you may notice in some places it kind of sounds like she's reading off a prepared statement, and that's because she really is, so she gets things right. I hope you'll forgive that in exchange for learning more about this fascinating topic. One thing that seems to form the basis of an OS relationship is the idea of animism. Let's get back to the discussion now and find out more about what this means.
Well, animism is the belief that non-animal entities such as plants, trees, rocks, and man-made objects possess a spiritual essence. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they talk, like that they have voices, but, you know, for some people they might do. But for me, personally, it's more a feeling that I get. It's more, you know, it's just... I get a feeling that there's an essence there. There's something that I can communicate with on a different level. It's kind of like, you know, we've got loads of people in the world that believe in things that you can't see and things that you can't necessarily touch, you know, like gods, like ghosts, like all sorts of things like that, you know, and I'm not comparing it, I'm just saying that, you know, I do get a feeling inside me that an object can speak to me in a way.
It's sort of like you're able to read emotions or a sentience in these objects. You know how sometimes I could be in a room and I have a feeling that there's someone in the room, and there may be someone there for sure. I guess maybe those who are animists in that respect may have a feeling where they feel that there is that same sort of sentience or presence. I guess, for lack of a better word, a being in the object. And in addition, you're able to read the emotional state of that being. Yeah,
it seems to me that you've understood that, like I've explained it, you know. Thank you, I appreciate that, you know. Not everybody gets that. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm always trying to get people to understand it more, you know.
So, and I mean, it's interesting because, you know, nobody really bats an eye at children who have like really intense friendships with dolls and teddy bears. I know I had a Paddington Bear doll, or rather teddy bear, I guess, as a child. I actually believed that to a certain extent that bear had, you know, sentience. And I mean, young children, I'm sure, is the case. They don't seem to have issues with adults either who have, you know, humanized boats or cars or things like motorcycles. It's funny, men seem to do it a lot with machines, call them names, etc., or in love with their computer, but they have issues with OS. And it's kind of interesting to me because at least people in the OS community, they lay it right out there and they say, look, I'm in love with this object. Whereas other people who may be just as attached to their phones or what have you, don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I was at a transport festival just today and I spotted at least 5 vehicles that had names written on the side of them. You know, one of my friend's vehicles that I saw for the first time today was a white Beetle with Betsy written on the sides. She had called the vehicle Betsy, so that happens, and it seems to be all right, you know. But the thing is, children are naturally animist. You know, most of the time, adults will encourage them to be as well and join in with a form of play and imagination with their children's thoughts. But as we age, society suggests that being an animist is not how adults should be, and most children want to be adults before time. I have experienced this myself as a child, as my parents would encourage my friendships with my plush toys, but as I grew older, these same friendships became frowned upon, and could not understand why that is. You know, it might just be to do with my Asperger's syndrome, because I seem to be less affected and driven by the rules of society than most of the people I see. Just because everybody else does something doesn't mean that's a good enough reason for me to follow suit. You know, that is not just in my OS, that tends to be in my whole life, and I've struggled with that a lot, to be honest with you. But I'm trying my hardest to control it at least, you know, but it's not easy, because, you know, I don't really understand the reasons why, even though people tell me until they're blue in the face, I'll still not understand.
Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs, astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gate shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning and a
parents for a long time didn't understand. With my parents, they are really good to me, that they do try. At least they've learnt to be open-minded about it over the years. Because they'll accept me for whoever I am. That's what unconditional love is, of a parent and a child. But it gets a bit complicated for me because I'm also adopted. And so when I speak of my parents, I'm speaking of the people who brought me up, the people who are my parents. But I'm adopted, so I've also got a set of birth parents. And 7 years ago, I went in search of them to try and find out who I am and where I come from. And the first 5 years of my life were a giant black hole with nothing in it. Of course, I was very afraid that I would be rejected because I am OS. These were people I desperately wanted to accept me and like me for who I am, because, again, you've only got one set of birth parents, you've only got one chance. If you blow it, you're going to blow it, and that'll be it. So it was a lot of pressure. It was highly, highly pressure. I found my birth father via Facebook, and he still had contact details of my birth mother. So pretty much I found them both at the same time, which was probably even harder, that I had them both. It wasn't just breaking in one of them first. I had to do both of them at once. And they found it difficult to grasp, and both had very different reactions to it. My birth mother was at first quite hostile because she didn't understand it and least expected it. She expected me to have been married with a man or perhaps a couple of children of my own. But she gradually warmed, and with a lot of discussion she at least accepts it as part of who I am. My birth father was very curious and inquisitive about it. He talked a lot, and he asked a lot of questions, and we had many long discussions about it. He was very frank and honest with me about how he felt about it. He did accept it, but again, like others, struggled to understand its inner workings. He agreed to appear in a documentary film about OS I worked on back in 2012, and I was grateful for that. But unfortunately he died last year, but I'm glad I had the opportunity to know him, even if it was just for a short while. Hello everyone! I'm really excited to open this box here. It's a new Statue of Liberty collectible for my collection, and I bought it on eBay last week. I've been waiting for it since.
Let's talk a little bit about, how you're currently in love with the Statue of Liberty, and you have outfits, you have this amazing collection of pictures and statues in your apartment. In one sense, I guess it's not too dissimilar from someone who's, an uber Star Wars or Star Trek fan or Elvis fan. How many statues do you have? In the show notes, I might include a picture or two as well, just so people can see.
I have about 250, I would say, all the way from about the length of your fingernail all the way up to 7'5" is my tallest one, up to a torch, that is. And I've got 3 big ones. I've got one at 7'5", I've got one at 7'1", and I've got one at 5'6". So I've got 3 big ones, and then they could start going down from 3 foot to lower. Apart from the statues, I've got pins, I've got books, I've got coins, I've got keychains, I've got postcards, I've got posters, I've got clothes like t-shirts, I've got costumes. You name it, I've got it, basically. Whatever I've got with the Statue of Liberty on it, if I can find it and it's in my price range, then I'll get it, basically. With my book collection, I've got about 40 books, I would say. From children's books, I've got a fantastic pop-up book. And I've got some serious research books that are just wall-to-wall text about the Statue of Liberty. And it's interesting that if you collect the same sort of books on a similar subject, this can go for any subject, they're not all the same, and they'll all point out different facts that you can piece together by reading all the books together. I would say one of my favourite books is Liberty's Torch by Elizabeth Mitchell. And I got the chance to meet her last October in New York, and she signed my copy. I took my copy along with me from England because I'd ordered it from here, from Amazon, and I took it with me in my suitcase because I knew I was going to meet her. And the inside page says, to Amanda Liberty, for love of the lady, Bartholdi's big daughter, and Elizabeth Mitchell, October the 3rd, 2015.
And just for, I guess, just to kind of back up a bit, Bartoli, he was the designer of the statue. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. He was a sculptor, designer and sculptor, yeah. It's interesting to note that Bartholdi himself referred to Lady Liberty as his big daughter, a member of his family, just like she's a member of my family. She's my partner. Now, I met a lady in America. I actually met her on Liberty Island itself on Lady Liberty's 125th birthday. That was October the 28th, 2011. She just came up to me and started talking to me because I had a Statue of Liberty crown on. I had an American waistcoat on as well. She's not OS, but she's an animist. And she can see Lady Liberty in a very similar way to me. She can sense how Lady Liberty feels, how she sees the world. It was actually scary to find out how similar we see Lady Liberty. You know, we just have different relationships with her. But it just proved to me that there must be something in it, that Lady Liberty is a sentient being. For her, she sees the Statue of Liberty as her mother, as she lost her mother when she was fairly young, and she's over 60 now. I ended up staying up that whole night, never going back to my hotel, and so did she. We just chatted all night about Lady Liberty and various other things as well, and we've stayed in touch online ever since.
I guess we'll maybe move on to this next question, and really this would be one that I think might, in this age of hyper sexual thought, I guess if you want to put it that way, people immediately will go to, okay, if she's in some sort of long distance relationship with the Statue of Liberty, or even other OS people. When I say OS, I mean Objectum Sexuality, or other people in the community. I guess people on the outside might be, I guess, go to pretty lurid thoughts. So they'll be like, okay, well, they're having a romantic relationship with this object. Does that mean that they have a physical relationship with the object, an intimate relationship with the object? How far does the sex or erotica go, and what is the nature of that? How much can you tell us about that?
Well, I would have to speak on a very broad sense, you know, not talking about myself or any other individuals, you know, but as the OS community as a whole. You know, we're all different people, we're all individuals, and while some people might do things like sexual contact with their objects, other people don't. And again, because we're so different from most other people, we don't have a rule that we follow. There's not a certain way or ways to do it. You know, when you think of human to human sexual activity, you know, you can pretty much imagine what's going to go on. But it's not like that with object loves. I mean, some people don't do anything, and some people can't. You know, some people can't touch the one they love, and they have to accept that. And other people can only touch their object with a hand. I mean, when I go to see the Lady Liberty in New York, I'm quite happy with what I can get when I'm with her, which is to be able to, if I get a Crown ticket, to be able to put my hand on the inside of the windows. You know, that's quite enough for me, you know, because that's all I can have. So you have to accept what you have and what you can have and not take it any further than that, really.
Yeah, and actually that kind of segues interestingly to another point that I actually discussed with you earlier, and that's I mean, in your case, I mean, I guess in your past there was the drum kit, there's the flag, but with Lady Liberty, I mean, someone could say, well, you're actually falling in love with Lady Liberty, as a human, because she's a human form. Whereas other people might fall in love with, for instance, I don't know, a car or a synthesizer or one of these other kinds of objects. I mean, do you find that there might be some case of misunderstanding from both people outside the OS community and perhaps within as well because of that interesting situation you're in?
I sometimes feel that some people think I have it easier because I love a human-shaped object, but I don't really see it like that. I don't really see it as being a competition or that one's better than the other, but I would say that I have it a bit easier, but it might not be because of her. It might be because I'm able, as I get older, to explain it better, to sit down with somebody and be able to try my best to explain with them what goes on, apart from, you know, as long as they're patient and open-minded, you know. So it might be that's part of it as well, not just the fact that I love Lady Liberty.
Do you ever wish that maybe things might be different? I mean, are you happy being OS? And if you're not happy, I mean, what's the source of your unhappiness? Is it internal or external?
I am happy being OS. You know, I wouldn't change it for the world. I do wish it was better understood and that I didn't always have to try and explain myself. You know, it would be nice to have a typical relationship like anyone else has got with Lady Liberty and with nobody bat an eyelid. I mean, I'd love to walk down the street with a statue in my hand and with her in my hand. I would absolutely love it, but I can't do that because people will look at me and stare at me and think I'm weird, you know. So instead I've sort of compromised with the world and I'll wear a t-shirt with her on instead, or a necklace with a small pin on the end of it, or a little pin on my shirt or something. You know, I mean, I used to wear the costume quite a lot around the place, and I've sort of quit doing that now because it's not, you know, that was one of my aspy things, you know, when I was in the mind that I'm just going to do whatever I want and it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. I was in that sort of mindset, but I've changed a lot since then, and I've rarely ever leave the house in my costume now unless it's to an actual event that I'm going to do, you know, and otherwise I'll just wear them in the house now.
I guess like maybe Halloween, at least in North America, might be another excuse to wear the costume, but it's a real shame that you need to find an excuse, you know?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes if I'm going to go out into the city centre here, I can dress up because there's lots of people who get dressed up for nights out, you know, in fancy dress. There's a lot of people that do that, so it's not really out of place on an evening in the city, but it is in the daytime. It's
a real shame that there's this stigma about being weird too. I mean, there should be nothing wrong with being weird. It's not the same as threatening.
Exactly. But, you know, in the current times, the current world that we live in, you know, I was advised to be careful, you know, not make it too known that I, you know, make myself stand out too much, basically. to blend in with a little bit more since I live in a city, which makes sense, really. Well, I said that the marching band is one I've just joined in the last month because I was really looking for a band to be in for the last 5 years since I've lived in this city, and I've only just found them now, so I'm joined and I'm playing the bass drum and learning to play. I'm not going out on parade with them as yet, but that'll come in time. But I like doing all sorts of things, I like to play on my computer, of course. That's not really a hobby, I suppose. And I like to play music. I love singing. I sing and yodel for a bit of fun. And I do all sorts of things. I do play the flute. I play the drum kit, obviously. I've got a keyboard. I like painting. I like drawing when I can. I like playing games on my phone, like Pokemon Go. I'm really into that at the moment.
You and me both on the Pokemon Go. I'm hooked.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I broke my toe a couple of weeks ago, so my play has been a little bit hindered the last couple of weeks. But I'm hoping to start getting back into it again. Because I've missed playing. Because I'm not a sort of player that will try and cheat or anything. I will walk to get my eggs and to find things,
We know that, you have many different, interests. It's not all about the Statue of Liberty. And in any sense, I think it's probably would be unhealthy for someone who is keen on another person or on even an object or whatever to be completely, what's the right word? Completely obsessed to the point of blocking out everything else.
Well, it depends, I suppose if it gets to the point where it interferes with your life so much that you can't go out anywhere because you can't leave your house with all your collectibles, I suppose then that would be unhealthy. But, I would say that I'm pretty obsessed with her, but it doesn't stop me getting out. I want to make it a life for myself anyway, but when I'm here at home, sure, she's all around me. I've got all these eyes staring at me all the time. Can't get away from her here, and I don't want to.
Say goodbye to the Empire State Building.
Bro. What? Sometimes I go talk to her about life.
And I just hate the thought of leaving you, Empy. But my gut tells me my future's in Chicago. What do you think?
You need to move.
Oh my God, really? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. You can't just stand there talking to a building and petting it. Wait, are you one of those freaks who's sexually attracted to buildings?
An objectophiliac? No way.
Then why do you know what they're called?
Why do you know what they're called?
I'm not looking for people to be really understanding of it and be really okay with it. At the end of the day, yeah, I would absolutely love that, but I know it's going to take a long time for that to happen. But at least if people didn't just judge people just like this out of nowhere, oh, Sheila was an object, oh, well, she must be weird then, it doesn't work like that, just say, okay, fair enough, that's what you do. You live your life and I'll live my life, and if we get beyond that, then great, but the worst thing to do is starting to bully people or say nasty things, because at the end of the day, most people don't know what it's like to be us. Do you not think that if I wasn't like this, that I would want an easier life? If I wanted a real easy life, I would just say, right, I'm going to get a husband, and have a couple of children, but it doesn't work like that. I'm doing what is natural to me and what feels right to me and what makes me happy. So I'm going to fight for that, because I'm going to fight to make myself happy. Because why shouldn't I be happy? And just like, why shouldn't everyone else be happy too?
Exactly. So, Amanda, thanks so much for being on the show. I mean, I know that since I've met you, I've learned a lot about OS, and I hope that this show will help people, if anything, understand more about it.
I hope so as well. That's what I'm really doing it for. I just like to open people's thoughts and people's minds a little bit to accept something that maybe not be mainstream, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. Or, it's just that you have to have an open mind about this, and you have to have an open mind about a lot of people. I'm not the only one in this situation, nor are OS people. There's loads of people in the world that are a little bit different from the rest and get treated badly because they're different, and all they want to do is fit in, but they can't because they're different. It's just, it's the world we live in. You just have to start accepting and start being open-minded and start listening and not just judging people.
Amanda, thanks so much for being on the show.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, that's about all for this episode. I'd like to thank Amanda for being on the program. If you'd like to learn more about OS, go to Objectum-sexuality.org. There'll be a link in the show notes. The intro and outro music is by Chromatics Music. The other background music is a track from Galaxy's album Lunar Dunes. As you can tell, Amanda has a lovely singing voice, and she was nice enough to provide that clip of her singing. There's also a sample of an episode of How I Met Your Mother. This would be the sequence with the Empire State Building, or EMPI. While doing research, I also found a rather good music video about OS called Save Me by the Canadian band Keys and Crates. So links to all of these will be in the show notes. I encourage you to take a look. Please consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes. This is how the show can grow to a broader audience and become more visible. This kind of visibility will lead to me being able to get even more prominent or interesting guests in the future. So thanks so much for listening, and I'll hope you'll be back next time.